Welcome back to Corporate Fuckery, stories of survival, psychological warfare, and choosing what's best for you. I'm your host, Lauren DeGolia, subconscious strategist, astrologer, and your favorite boardroom truth teller. Today's guest is the definition of a modern powerhouse. After more than a decade in big law and senior leadership, Mollie Tregillis walked away from the corporate grind to build something better, and she's shaking up the system ever since. She's now the founder of the Fulfillment Lab, a coaching and connection space helping corporate women reclaim their spark, and Mollusk, a facilitation and strategy company helping progressive organizations build cultures that actually work for humans. Mollie brings humor, humanity, and hard-won wisdom to every conversation, and she's proof that you can do big work in a better way. In today's episode, we'll dive into what happens when you stop performing, start reconnecting, and dare to believe that fulfillment isn't a fantasy. It's the new metric of success. So grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and get ready to meet the woman leading corporate shakeup with heart, clarity, and a killer sense of humor. Welcome, Mollie Tregillis.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I love that. I love that. That sounds great.
Yeah, just for you. It's so
So
glad
good.
to have you. I've been
So good
noticing
to
how
be
you've
here.
been shaking up the interwebs with your corporate point of view, and I'm so
Yes.
glad to have you today.
So good to be here. Excited.
So this season is all about powerhouse women, and I'm a big believer that anybody who is willing to take the corporate narrative head on is considered a powerhouse in my book, because it is an
Mhm.
antiquated system that doesn't
Yes.
actually serve humanity, and I'm hoping that we can discuss that here today.
Yeah. Well, I'm in heated agreement with you on that. I think the system is broken, particularly for women. And I'm sure we'll get into this, but I've had to think long and hard about my role in shaking it up. And I used to get really overwhelmed thinking, this is too big. What the hell am I supposed to do? But what I've realized is if I can help women in corporate be what I call rebelliously well and really thriving, then the ripple effect of that is enormous, because not only are they rebellious well, but as they come into leadership, they're learning how to lead in a different way. And yes, I'm thinking this is going to take a generation, but I'm planting as many seeds as I can so that we can look back and say, yeah, that had a massive ripple effect.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm actually a big believer that we are the transition generation
Yeah.
that is meant to leave the tiger climbing the corporate ladder with our claws mentality, with how do we lead from a heart-centered place where
Yeah.
we have a human-centered first approach. And I know this sounds like a big statement, but I actually think we're upon the employee transformation here in this next decade or two, would be my hope. Sooner would
Yeah.
be better. But that's the next, we've just lived the digital transformation. And I believe that the companies that are going to win out there are going to be the ones that are human focused.
I completely agree. And I think that tracks because we know that emerging technology is going to change the absolute face of how we do our work. And companies that are willing to acknowledge that and realize that the thing that's left is like really good culture, human connection, human skills, I think are going to be the ones that remain. I think it's that bigger call. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot, and I would love your perspective on this, but there's a lot around the return to office. And I covered this in season one, like this whole everybody get back to the office. And I know you're down in Australia. I'd love to know what the landscape is down there. You know, part of the impetus here is to weed out the people who are not actually the ones that are really committed to the job.
Committed.
And so I would love to understand what your perspective is, because I feel like you have a sense about how these things are going to ripple into the rest of organizations, but what's that actually going to do at the end of the day to organizations and women in leadership?
Yeah, I think the full return to work mandate, return to office mandate, which is definitely spreading here. You see some of the big banks, for example, really being much more targeted and saying you have to be in these sort of days, and making very clear, for example, that they're tracking scan cards and things like this, which
and
I
time
just
in and time out. Like
time in,
Microsoft
time
is
out.
like, 8 a.m., 5 p.m. Did you work 8 hours? Did you do the thing? And I'm like, are we in fifth grade? When
Yeah.
did we get back to
It's
fifth grade?
it's just not I just don't think it's conducive to a strong culture or high performance, because I think there has to be a foundational element of trust. Like, if there's not trust in your employees actually being there for the right reasons, let's say you've got 85% or 90% who want to be there. This is almost catering to the 10% that are, as I don't know if this is an Australian expression, phoning it in. No, I think that's a universal expression. Because obviously there are going to be some people that take advantage of this, but we can't plan a whole system based on the few that are like, "Oh, I'm just chilling at work at home." Like, most people want to do a good job. I find the majority of people, certainly that I encounter, are working really way too hard, frankly, to do a good job. And they're so conscientious. And there needs to be a foundation of trust. I mean, if we step back even further than that, like, my learnings over the last few years is that the actual requirement for people to work from X time to X time, it does not suit the majority of us, because majority of us have energy cycles that are very different to the corporate structure. So if we go even bigger than that, I think in a perfect world, people could work in a way that suits their energy. But I also understand that in a big organization, that could be chaos. So there's got to be some middle ground. Also, if we're just going to say some ambit claims, I think that 50% of all meetings should be cancelled. And I would love to go and look at everyone's diaries and can't, because we are just in a death by meeting part of, and I think this has come out of the pandemic partly because everyone did Teams meetings or Zoom meetings to counteract not having the water cooler effect.
Right.
But it's just, it has got out of control.
Yeah. And when I was at Microsoft recently, my day was, at least a good part of it, especially because I was working European time, was, and Indian Standard Time, was meeting after meeting.
Yeah.
And it was never water cooler. It was very rarely actual
No.
connection. And nobody had the appetite actually for a whole nother meeting to have that kind
No.
of connection or a happy hour or anything like that. I want to just touch back on a point that you made a moment ago around, if you are a high performer and a type A personality or whatever version of that you identify with, there is nothing about you that wants to take advantage of a work from
No.
home situation. I don't know what it's going to take to recalibrate all this, because it's like swinging the pendulum. I always say corporate America, in my 20 years in it, has watched the pendulum swing on so many topics from one side to the other, and it will just go back to the other side. But how do you see us having a best of both worlds perspective
On the
on the just managing like the work-life balance? Let's go into kind of the women you coach and the burnout that you manage, and let's talk through, this RTO is having a definite negative impact to what the women I believe that you're trying to help
Yeah.
and trying to lift up are navigating. And so how, if we were to think about the two extremes that we just spoke about, how do we bring it back to be like, here's a semblance that feels maybe a little bit more balanced?
Yeah. I spend a lot of time trying to work with women in corporate, because my message is not everyone should leave. That's just silly. That's not fair. But what I want to try and do is what I want to try and do is help people understand how to maximize their impact in their role without all the busy work. I think for a lot of us, we've been taught, or it's been modeled to us, that the way we're a good employee, certainly in the early days, is to look really busy and do a lot of things. And as we go on, we need to extract ourselves from that. This is where I do a lot of work about corporate unlearning and work out, how do I actually have impact? And it might be doing a lot less, but really being really targeted and strategic about our priorities and what we're working on. For a lot of women I coach, I'd say, what are let's say, the top 4 concerns of executive in your organization? And they're like, oh, I don't actually know. And I'm like, you need to really know that. And then you need to filter it down and say, how does my role contribute to that? So that, at the end of the day, that's what the company cares about. And you are there to contribute to some part of that. And if we keep getting distracted, why and with what? If we're getting distracted because our team is like messaging us all the time and wanting rapid fire responses, we need to recalibrate that we need focus time and we need to work out how we have most strategic impact. And so this is why I think for most women could work 25 to 30% less and be seen to be having more impact, recalibrating it. So this is kind of one of my messages of hope. It's like the answer's not working more and more and more. Like it just can't be. It's about stepping back, creating some space and looking around and saying, what have I got to do to actually nail this role? And then gather data to showcase that I'm nailing this role. Because many women are not great at talking strategically about their impact. So I do a lot of work training women on that. And even before that, the big pillar that it always explodes the internet when I do it, and it's like has women in tears, it's like articulating your unique value proposition. You've got to be able to answer the question, why is my workplace lucky to have me, regardless of your level? Because otherwise you're just always in a proving energy. And we have to have a different mindset and mentality that there's a value exchange going on. They're paying me money. I'm giving them value. That's the exchange. It's not my life. It's not my identity. It's not my forever everything. It's a job. I might love my job, but it's still, there's a two-way value exchange going on. And we need to get a little more perspective about that, I think, and work accordingly.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And as someone who lost her personal identity in the corporate grind and had to piece myself back together piece by piece after adrenal crisis and, you know,
so unfortunately so common, right?
So common. And nobody realizes, Mollie, that it takes 3 to 5 years to recover from actual burnout. Like, it took me the better part of 5 years. Like, I still feel it's a work in progress, but I'm so much better than I used to be. And I love your sentiment about giving the perspective of what is the value? Why are they lucky to have me? Because forever high achieving women were like, I really want you to understand. I really want you to see and validate who I am.
Yeah.
I really want you to see the contribution that I'm making. And I would have literally killed myself trying to do that in my executive position. And I think many women are. And then I think it gets really dangerous when you get to the top of an organization and the feedback that you're looking for to understand that part of yourself, to feel seen in that way, it actually doesn't really exist. And so you're going to free fall at that point.
Yeah.
Oh my God, who's validating my existence if it's not every one of the leaders above me? So how do you recommend people navigate that?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting one. I think it's super common to see women moving up into leadership and getting this immense shock because they've got there by being really good at doing and delivering and ticking things off the list. And necessarily to step up into leadership, there is a requirement of recalibrating what it is you're delivering and how, and people that can be so disconcerting. Like it's like pulling the rug out. It's like, but I'm really good at pushing the widgets along. Or if you use the legal context where I come from, but I always meet my billable targets. And it's like, that isn't going to cut it anymore, unfortunately, when you're in a leadership position. And there's very little, yes, there's leadership training all over the place, but there's very little proper preparation for the massive shifts that are required to become a leader in this world where doing and ticking these off the list is so praised. So you like do busy work to get there, but get there, don't do any more busy work. It's like, how? It's all I've known. That's what I'm good at. That's like literally, that's like my thing. Then you're like, then you need discernment and you need to work out how to create space and prioritize and like report and delegate and gather data and report well. And it's like, what do you mean? Like I've literally never have been asked to do this before. This is why I think ideally the journey starts earlier, that if we can get women earlier along the journey to start this work around impact and value. And one of my other big things around like creating space in your week to think strategically and to actually look at what's coming up and be like, do I need to be there? If that starts earlier, the shock is less, right? When you get up top, because you've got a good, true, strong sense of your own internal value, ideally. You understand the levers of your organization. You understand how to report on metrics and impact, and you understand how to create space. That's a good starting point for settling into leadership without it being an immense shock to the system.
And actually, that is a beautiful way just to frame it that way for your subconscious mind, because that's the work that
Yeah.
I do, to use that as evidence to build the case for
Yes.
why you are a right fit for leadership. So as you look to build that evidence and understand how you step into that identity, because it is a shift identity wise, and that's what many
Correct.
women
Yes.
don't recognize, is like you're actually stepping into a whole new identity. And if you're not clear on what you're actually using to measure that, then you're just in this like spin cycle of how do I survive this?
Yeah. Agree.
Especially if you're just trying to do more, as they say.
More and more. And especially if, going to your point around burnout, if your nervous system's already not in a happy place. And I agree with you from my own experience. I don't, again, this might be a very Australian reference, but when I was at high school, there was a big outbreak of glandular fever, which is that a thing?
I have
I don't
not
know.
heard of glandular.
I think it's mono. I think you
Oh,
guys
mono.
call it,
Yes, that is a thing. Yes.
but there was all these kids that had it. But what I remember from it is it never quite goes away once you've had it. It's like you push your body too far and it bounces back. And I feel like for a long time, it's like that with burnout. Like I have done so much work as well, but I have to still be careful. I'm not as resilient to stress as I used to be because, well, I used to just ignore it.
Yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like oh, the stress. I can feel it now, actually, rather than just numbing it out. But having a centered nervous system, or knowing how to close the stress cycle, recover from stressful moments, which are going to happen, is really important work as well, because we can't avoid stress in the corporate context, but also we're not taught how to manage it and look after ourselves and go home and create habits to show our body that we're safe. And all these things that are really important that I didn't know until I had to
I didn't
teach
know either.
myself.
I didn't even know that I
Yeah.
was in survival mode. And speaking about the
Yeah.
mono or glandular fever, like I have this very potent memory of working in downtown Seattle, and I can't remember if I had pneumonia or some bacterial something. And I ran to the doctor between meetings, and he
Mm.
was right around the corner from our offices. And I was like, hey, I can't stop. There's no way for me to be able to take a down day to get this. And he's like, okay, I have an option for you. You can go on antibiotics, or I can give you an antibiotic shot in your ass right now. And I was like, I'll take the shot because I got to keep going. And 24 hours later, I was like 10 times better. And I was laughing at myself the other day going, Lauren, what the hell were you
Yeah.
actually thinking?
Yeah.
Because it's almost a commitment to just completely ignore anyone's self-preservation in any way, shape, or form, to just grind harder.
Yeah. And ignore the body's cues, ignore our instincts, really. Like the other thing I see a lot of, for obvious reasons, is women who have shut down the ability to listen to their gut for years. Because it's not very convenient, because the gut's, hey, can you get out of this, please? That's not great.
Yeah.
And then I come along saying, your power is in trusting your gut. And I do believe in the corporate context as much as anything, like a woman leader who trusts their gut and goes with it is a
Yep.
powerhouse.
Uh-huh.
But for many women, they're like, oh, I don't know. What do you mean? What gut? You go like
Yeah, I
reach,
would tell
like,
you, I never trusted my gut. I
no.
only lead with my gut now. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, like
same.
we're
Same.
here,
It's all
and
gut.
I am only trusting what is best for me is going to tell me, and we are
Yeah.
moving forward from there. I'm so
Yeah.
glad you answered the question before I even had to ask. Powerhouse women trust their gut. You heard it here first.
Correct. And I see in my one-to-one coaching, like I have a lot of, it's often leaders in the law. I just remember so distinctly working with one woman and she's like, oh, I've got a funny feeling about this person she's going to employ. And I was like, what's your gut telling you? She ignored it. She ignored it and it didn't go well. And, we had to reflect a few months later. But she learned the lesson that time because we had the feedback loop of discussing it. So the next time around, she had a similar gut and she acted on it in the right way, which was to listen to it. And I was like, this is progress, man. I think it requires a one-to-one coach.
I was
saying,
just going to
and
say,
what are
like,
we?
this is the
Yeah.
gift that a coach actually gives
Yeah.
you, because I give my clients the same kind of feedback. It's just practicing, learning to do the things that you've never done before so that you
Correct.
can learn how to do them faster the next time, because the faster you're able to step into that version of you, the faster you're able to get a reliable result over time.
Yeah.
We don't realize that bypassing that like actually is a disservice to us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if people are like, but how do I get back there? It's, as we say, noticing, listening, learning when you stuff it up. Like, I think that's all we can ask for people all the time. And for me, if I've got someone who's really at the beginning of this journey, I say, just first, before you act, because we're very good at acting, just do some noticing. Like, notice when you have a little flicker in your gut. You don't do anything about it right now, because that's you're like primed for action. Just start to feel and sense what's going on and take some notes, and let's talk in a fortnight, and then we can talk about what to do with it. Because I think, yeah, we've got that move of I've got a problem or I've got a need and I'm going to solve it in 2 minutes is so corporate. So what about sitting with it sometimes? Women hate sitting with it,
Let it
sitting with
breathe.
anything. Yeah.
Well, that's the hamster wheel, though, right? If you're
Yeah.
in survival mode, you're on the hamster wheel of autopilot. And so then you're just chewing through everything that you can get
Yeah.
to. And before you know it, like you just are become genius at solving every problem. And that's how you remove resistance. The problem is that resistance sometimes doesn't actually serve
Yeah.
the best for you.
Exactly. I often offer women rest practices in my courses, which is literally lying down and listening to some, I work with a rest practitioner and they resist and resist and resist and resist. And one by one, they're like, oh, I couldn't do the 45-minute one, but I did the 15-minute one and it was actually really good. But the resistance to 15 minutes of nothingness is so huge. And what does that say? If we step back and look at that, it's wild, right? Like,
especially if you're working like a 14-hour day and you're not going to give yourself 15 minutes.
No, because there's so much else to do. We've got to keep going. We've got to fold the laundry. It never ends if you don't allow it to end.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, about your story of discovering how these modalities really became part of who you are and what you teach.
Yeah. So I was just such a standard corporate gal. I got really burnt out. I had to work out how to look after myself again. And I worked with a therapist, which was amazing. But I basically did a whole lot of experimentation around what I needed. And so when I first realized I was burnt out, I had a month off, luckily, because in the legal world here in January in summer, like most things shut down. So it's actually quite a good time it's a huge gift. I had a month with basically no screens, a lot of breath work, diving in the ocean. Like I was sort of accidentally doing some modalities at that point, journaling. And so I've kept all that, like the breath work's really useful and the cold water, very useful. And then looking around, I found this beautiful woman who I still love and is a mentor, Emmy Ray, who does the Daily Rest Studio. So she teaches restorative practices. And I have done so much of that. And last year, my first year out was basically one big rest practice. I was so tired. I had no idea how tired I was. And so I've collected along the way these things that I recommend. So my coaching training, I'm IECL executive coaching certified. So it's kind of like my foundation of coaching. And then I've got the kind of knowledge from years in corporate strategy to do the strategic stuff. And then I've collected a range of modalities I recommend on or things through my own learning. And I've worked out that I don't have to be an expert in all these things, but mostly what I do is share my experiences and allow other people to make up their own mind, because I think we all need to build our own toolkit. One of the masterclasses I run often is around what I call building your stress relief toolkit. It could be self-care toolkit, whatever you want to call it. And I have a range of buckets. Like I think we need the physical, but we also need something not necessarily spiritual, but something like for our soul, creative outlets, collecting all the things that make us feel good and noticing and having them available when we need them. That's a big teaching of mine, and helping women rekindle a lot of that. In fact, yesterday I did a masterclass in the Fulfillment Lab, which is rediscovering joy. And we went through a big exercise to remember all the things we used to love to do as a child and what we want to bring back, call back in, and then some commitments about how we're going to make it happen. And the comments afterwards and just like seeing the chat in the lab is so beautiful because everyone's, oh my gosh, I went and found my knitting and I've got this new book, and it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, we forget that's the part of us that really gets shut off, especially in a highly masculinated space, is that softer feminine side. And I
Yeah.
believe that's a lot of what it sounds like you in the Fulfillment Lab. I wrote down quite a few things that you do here around rest period and leadership style, and this obviously the self-care toolkit that you're talking about. But what permission do you think, or what signals of burnout, however you want to answer, I feel like it's going to be a very similar endpoint. Do you think that women who are on the verge of needing this type of, I'll call it intervention work, because
And
many of us that don't recognize that this is happening know that this isn't going to end well in some way, shape, or form, right? Like you have enough of a sense that this isn't scalable, which is why as you think you're going up the corporate ladder, you're like, I don't have any more capacity. There's nothing more that I can do that's going to make this work out. But either how does that show up as signs of burnout, or when do you feel like they need to know or make a decision to make these shifts so that they can feel like they can live in a more balanced, energetic
yeah.
lifestyle?
So a big part of what I'm trying to do in all my chatting on the internet is I don't want women to wait until they've got signs of burnout, because we both know, and I try and say this a lot, that recovering from burnout is really hard, but proactively starting to look after yourself is actually not that hard, except we have great resistance to it because we've been told we don't deserve it or some rubbish. So I'm really trying to get women earlier. That makes sense. And I'm trying to be very clear that I cannot help you recover from burnout, because that fundamentally in the early stages needs a doctor and a therapist.
Yeah, medical intervention.
Right? Yeah.
Completely agree.
And so I find I have two groups of women. I have women that are like, I don't want to get there, or I'm getting closer. And then I have the group who I've been there and I never want to go back.
Yeah.
So I find that really interesting. But I'm trying to shift the culture around only, it's like, going to the doctor for the antibiotic shot. I want women way earlier. I want them to be doing multivitamins instead. That's basically it.
Getting 8 hours of sleep a night so that they don't get that sick. Yeah.
Trying to teach women that it's okay to do this for themselves and it's not selfish, and actually, like, I have to use language around it being a strategic play, which it is, because if you're very well, you're going to perform well, but it's bigger than that for me. I just fundamentally think that women deserve a rich and fulfilling life where work is one part of that, but also they're really well and thriving in their personal lives. And I've got to try all angles to access them and convince them that they should. Because I don't know about you, but a refrain I hear so often is, oh, no, this sounds great, but I'll wait till things have calmed down at work. Or I've got small babies. It's not the right time. Me thinking, it's exactly when you need it. But what part of having small babies?
My clients, they're like, oh yeah, like I'm really busy right now, but once things settle down, like I can get to that coaching. Or 6 weeks seems like a pretty big commitment, at least to start, because that's typically how, like, I want people to get 6 weeks and see a transformation with me before they invest in something longer term. And in that, they want to try and solve all the problems that they're currently navigating just by setting a bigger, higher bar kind of goal that they're like, if I can just solve this, I swear to God, everything will be fine.
Yeah.
That's
which
so
is
cute.
Yeah. Which is why now for me, I've taken a hard line on this, which is minimum 6 months. I don't care who you are or how you're coming to me. Literally nothing is going to happen in a smaller amount of time.
Yeah, because I work with the subconscious mind, I can, in 6 weeks, typically,
You can,
to shift how they're thinking and
that's so good. Yeah.
So the time commitment is less to see that kind of shift. But I would agree with you. Like, it's taken me 4 years, 3 years, and some, depending on what kind of topic we're talking about, to actually make meaningful, lasting change.
Mm,
And that's where I think everyone wants the Instagram version of transformation in this space. I just want to feel better. And it's like you actually are radically accountable for practicing that over time so that you get where you want to go over time.
yeah. I say it's like it's doing the reps. You just got to keep doing the reps and it will pay off. And people don't believe how small you can start. Like I'm saying to all these women, 5 minutes, man. Like 5 minutes. Just what if in your day twice you stopped and had 5 minutes of space? And they're like, that's ridiculous. How could that help? And I'm like, but are you? Do you literally have 5 minutes of no input in the day? And they're like, well, no. I've got these huge visions about transformation, but I also know with overwhelmed women, it's got to be boiled down into bite-sized bits. And that's how I've changed everything in just small little bits. Like it's fundamentally possible to keep going.
And I believe I am 100% with you. If you shift it from like the self help and like the we're fixing to the self mastery and we're building something we actually want,
Yeah,
like even in that tiny shift, your brain can get on board with the value of not feeling like you're constantly fixing something broken
exactly.
and like finding a way to neutralize the chaos before just trying to replace it with something positive is also super helpful. Because if you can feel neutral, life feels a lot different.
Yeah. More spacious. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So tell
Yeah.
us all about the Fulfillment Lab. I want to be super respectful of your time today, and I know we're dwindling down here.
Oh,
But
yeah.
tell us all about the Fulfillment Lab and where we can find you and how to work with you. I would love to showcase that
Oh,
for my
yeah.
listeners.
Thank you. So the Fulfillment Lab, it's in its beautiful new form, new digital platform I built for corporate women. Oh, isn't but I think everyone should just grab a look just for the colors, just for a dose
Oh,
of
it's
colors.
so soothing. And like, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a PowerPoint wizard, so like I appreciate a good aesthetic, but
Yeah.
you've got it nailed down, sis.
Thank you. So it's really an online coaching and education community for corporate women. There's a range of tiers from like masterminds all the way down to bite-sized inspiration. Each month I have a podcast, we have a beautiful new, it's so funny the things that you get passionate about. A monthly journal, digital magazine, but it's just like the most beautiful thing ever. And then we've got strategic masterclasses, coaching calls. There's just a sliding scale of wonderfulness in there. The women in there are incredible. Someone asked me the other day, how do you make sure there's no disruptive forces in there? And I said, I don't like so far. It's just a magical space. And we also have a very firm no assholes policy, which I've never had to
No corporate
implement,
fuckery in here.
but
Get out.
it's literally like in the entry terms.
Guidelines. Yeah.
So yeah, it's essentially for women who want to thrive at work and in life and do, as we say, this work before burnout. And it's not even about burnout in there. There's a whole set of resources around stress relief and reset, but I also want for people to reclaim joy and understand their identity and understand their value and just create a movement of women in corporate who are actually thriving. That's the big vision. So it's very exciting and I love doing it so much. It's like my favorite thing to do.
Beautiful. Sounds like you found one of your own identities here in this work and in this transition. And
Most
there's
definitely.
nothing more fulfilling than that, in my opinion.
Yeah. And if you I think at the moment SEO is quite good. I don't know about in the US, but it's the fulfillment lab with 2ls.com.au.
Beautiful.
If
We'll
it's
make
it.
sure to include that down in the show notes. Mollie, it's been lovely talking to you today. Thank you so
You
much for
too.
sharing your beautiful energy and your wisdom with us. If you had one thing that you want Powerhouse women to walk away with that are listening today, what would that be?
One thing.
Just
That's
one.
asking a lot of me.
I know.
I would like them all to know that they're already amazing and they deserve to feel great. And then it's time to go and find ways to do that. Like we need to be chasing something more than survival mode.
Amen. That's the perfect end. All right. We'll have you back soon. Wow, what a conversation. Mollie is such a powerful reminder that fulfillment isn't found in your title or your to-do list. It's built in the quiet moments when you decide to do things differently, when you trade proving for presence, when you let rest be a strategy, not a reward. And trust me, I know how hard that is, because the truth is, fulfillment isn't a fantasy. It's a practice, and you're allowed to start today, even in the smallest of ways. If this episode sparked something for you, share it with the powerhouse woman in your world who's ready to redefine success on her own terms. You can connect with Mollie and learn more about the Fulfillment Lab in the show notes below. And as always, thank you for tuning into Corporate Fuckery, stories of survival, psychological warfare, and choosing what's best for you. I'm your host, Lauren DeGolia. Until next time, lead with heart, trust your gut, and keep choosing what's best for you. Because what's best for you is always best for everyone.